Got my boy. I
Will
have my
will
boy
the
do it.
U.S. be all right?
Yeah, right.
Let's transition to if the U.S. is going to be all right. And honestly, I know that I'm being super critical off the bat, but this is the exact choices that I kind of saw would happen for Biden's cabinet. So Biden's cabinet choices seem to be Pete Buttigieg for transportation secretary, Jennifer Granholm to run the energy department, Gina McCarthy for the domestic climate czar, which is great. Ali Zaidi for deputy White House climate coordinator, and Michael Reagan, which is likely to be the EPA administrator. So it's also important that this is all like they're rolling this out at a specific time where they want all of them to be climate related people or energy or climate related people. So I want to be more critical. Yes, I do not want Pete Buttigieg anywhere near my executive office, but that's a personal opinion, not a factual opinion.
I personally don't like him too much. I think he's pretty phony. I think he's like he caters to whatever was popular at that moment. Like he was really cool with Bernie Sanders in the beginning, and then all of a sudden he was like during the primaries, he kind of flaked on him. So I don't really like his personality. I don't think that he's the worst of the worst, but it's just something about him makes me feel like he's a little on the fake side, but it is what it is. I'm just happy.
I mean, at least it.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, at least it's not the quid pro quo it seemed to be. Like, it seemed like when he dropped out, whoever talked to him, a lot of people suspect Obama spoke to him. It seemed like there might have been some quid pro quo that he would get a better role, but transportation secretary is kind of a middle of the road appointment, which is, it's weird because he's not necessarily qualified for it, but he has an interest in those things. So I can't knock that. He was a mayor in a local town, and I'll read a little bit later, but he did at least pay attention to transportation. So I kind of get this as like, all right, you did me a favor. You got out of the way. Yep. But it's not, I'm not going to give you some crazy. You're still young. You're still a baby in this administration.
Yep. Yeah, he's I don't know, man. I respect a lot of things that he symbolizes as a politician, but like I don't know, man. Like there's just too many fake ones out there, and like he's lumped in that same category in my mind, and I don't know. I'm just happy there's Democrats now going to be running the show at the end of the day versus Republicans at the end of the day. So I'll live with it for now. It might be corporate Democrats, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I think it's good to put in this quote that Biden put in just to get an idea of where they're coming from. And I think this is a return to normalcy in their viewpoint, which is returning to an Obama era type of administration. So I understand where they're coming from, at least. Yeah. But just to say what Biden quoted as saying in the I believe it's an AP article, I'm nominating him for Secretary of Transportation because this position stands as the nexus of many of the interlocking challenges and opportunities ahead for us. Jobs, infrastructure, equity, and climate all come together at the DOT, the site of some of the most ambitious plans to build back better. So he's basically using him as the front man for any kind of infrastructure plan that he has for the country, which isn't a bad look. It is very important that he will be the first openly gay or LGBTQ individual in the cabinet that we know. So it's an amazing thing. And this is the same thing with Harris, right? Her just being the
first black.
Being the first black. Mm-hmm. That matters. I hate to say it. I think that policy will matter over any of those factors, but it is important that it happens.
Yeah. It's a great thing. You know what I mean? Seeing these big changes. Politically, like race related, sexuality related things being more allowed in the public eye. Like, I mean, I'm not public eye, but you know what I mean. Like in the cabinet and everything else. It's historic. That's the word I was looking for. It's like a historic thing.
Yeah,
it's not talked about enough, but it is historic.
And then I'm gonna throw in the one wet blanket into all of this. So this is a mixed messaged kind of article that I found, because I think there's a little bit of elitism that's related to this. But shortly after being elected mayor in 2012, he set up transforming the South Bend's downtown area, which South Bend is where he was the mayor of, downtown through an initiative named Smart Streets, aimed at reducing traffic, adding bike lanes, and making certain areas more pedestrian friendly. After years of political resistance, the investment in infrastructure ignited a revival of the downtown area. Now, a lot of people would call that gentrification. Wow, that's loud out there. I don't know if you can hear that.
A little bit, not much. It's okay.
It's something cleaning the streets. That's what it is.
Mm.
They're putting down salt right outside. That's why. Sorry about that. Everybody was like, is there a plane flying right over my head?
Yeah, I barely heard it. To be honest, I don't think anybody really heard too much about it. But it's good. We're good.
So, do you have any other thoughts about Pete Buttigieg before we move on to some of the other candidates?
Not much. Like time will tell basically how he does his job. You know what I mean? Like I know he's had like issues, in the past, politically, that people didn't really like some of the stuff that he did. What was it? There was a case related to him, right? What was that?
Yes, there was let me actually get to it in the article, because they actually said it pretty well. It's a criticism of him in South Bend and this is one of the things where it's like he might not be qualified in a way, because his infrastructure is great, but it has nothing to do with, he falls out for Black people, like as an African American, he did very poorly in the South Carolina primaries because of a case. I'm just trying to roll to the case because I would like to say it properly.
Yeah, I didn't want to like talk. I knew about the case, but I don't remember all the specifics, so I didn't want to talk about it. But I remember hearing a bunch of stuff during the primaries about it, and go ahead.
Just making sure that I get all the right stories.
I think there was something. Wasn't there like
it's so interesting, right? Today. Yeah, there was a killing of someone, and he basically said it. She ran across the street, and he basically said that it was the fault of her for bolting across the street. Yeah. It's kind of a odd story, and also he has issues just with the South Bend police and allowing for we would call it a murder, but at least a homicide of some sort occurred. Yeah, and
he kind of said
the police pretty much are getting it.
I think he said something about he was gonna look into it and never did, or something like that. I heard some story about.
Yes, exactly.
So that's crazy. But everything's crazy, right? That's one of my favorite words. I'm starting to notice. Oh, wait, that's crazy. But yeah, Buttigieg.
Yeah, like, they call it a police. Yeah, and they called it a police crisis. Like a lot of the way that they talk about this is that he just basically didn't respond very well to South Bend's crisis with the police. So that is a great critique of him. I think that's valid. I think that he literally was put in a role where it didn't matter. They made sure to put him in a space that would only come up as a tangential problem. Yeah. I just hope that I hope that there's an actual infrastructure plan. I think that's more relevant, right?
You think he's gonna run against Harris when because they say that Biden might be just a four-year term or whatever.
Oh, he's definitely not gonna run twice.
I'm sorry, like I don't know. You sound like you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's. Let me see if it's something with the settings over here. I don't want to. Let me see.
No problem. Just let me know. Let me see.
Do you have I don't mean to like stop what we're talking, but do you have like any processing going on your voice? Because I don't have any on my end. It just sounds like
not right now. I
don't. That's weird. It just seems like it drops out a little. Let me see what happens down the line. I'm sorry about that. But what was I gonna say? So yeah, like it says a lot about a person when they don't look into things like that. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he's not flaky when it comes to his position now. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I don't know if, like you said, it's probably like kind of I wouldn't say a minor position, but it's one of those that's not going to be like looked upon, but so much, you know what I mean? So like the attention won't be on him. I don't think that often. So So we'll see what happens.
He's just gonna gain some clout from it. That's all that's gonna happen. He's just gonna gain a little bit of clout from all of this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you said you don't think he's gonna go up against Harris, or no?
See, that's what I was contemplating it. I'm saying that I know for a fact that Biden will not run again. So it's possible, but it wouldn't be the most prudent move as of now.
Yeah.
If you ask me in a year and the Harris Biden, they haven't been able to do anything, and for some reason he's going to leave in a year or something like that, then he'll definitely run against Harris.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So just to name the other people who were at least are being put up for the roles, some of them, if you're a secretary, for instance, you have to be confirmed by the Senate. And if it's just an advisor or a czar, it can be an executive choice. So Jennifer Granholm, the former Michigan governor, is going to be up for the energy secretary.
Mm-hmm.
She served two terms as Michigan's governor and defeated the husband of U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos to win her second term. In November, she penned an op-ed for the Detroit News coming for the Michigan's auto industry to invest in low carbon economies. So I love how they say low carbon economies. They're basically saying we need to do our entire recovery with new materials, and that we need to go with, basically she did a TED talk too talking about alternate energy futures. So she's economically at least focused on alternative energies. So that's a positive. You can say it didn't work before, but at least that's her attempt to get all alternative energies. Also, Gina McCarthy is going to be who is the former EPA chief as the White House climate coordinator. That's an executive position, so she doesn't have to be confirmed. This is actually a great one. Gina McCarthy is probably the best choice that we've gotten so far. Maybe you wouldn't call her progressive, but she's at least a left greenie kind of person. She was the former Environmental Protection Agency chief, and she's basically going to be with John Kerry doing these kind of envoys to get climate change problems talked about again. I mean, we kind of lost that, right?
How do you feel about Kerry though? Like that's somebody to actually another person to like consider, like, because a lot of people feel like he's kind of like out of touch a little bit with things. I don't know. I've heard stories of people telling me that because of the amount of money that he's worth and everything else, that he might not be necessarily the best person for the job. But that's criticizing somebody because of their pockets. I don't want to always do that with people, but to some degree with some people that does affect things. When you have like what his wife is the Heinz, one of the owners of Heinz or something like that. Yeah,
she's an heir of the Heinz company.
Oh, the heir, yeah. So, yeah. So how do you feel about Kerry? Like, and do you think that he's going to do his job well, or how do you feel about it?
So he has some international clout. Like, so internationally, they respect him enough that I think it could be helpful. Internationally, we need to just get back on the stage and say that we care about these problems. We weren't paying attention to that at all for the last 8 years.
Yeah. All right, well,
and I know I added in an extra 4 years, but I think that it's actually one of the problems with the Obama administration is that they entered an accord, for instance, with the Paris Accord, and then said it was non-binding. Like, we need to be into a position where we're saying we're having binding agreements about climate change and about oil usage and about natural gas, and we're not at a point where we're talking about it in that fashion. We're still saying, what half measure can we put in? I believe at least McCarthy believes in going full on and changing the way that we deal with energy and manufacturing. So, yay, one positive one for the team.
Yeah. Like, some of the stuff seems like that Biden's doing seems a little, I wouldn't say progressive, but a little progressive, more than what I would have expected from him. But we'll see. Time will tell. Like, some of these people are put in positions where they're not going to be able to do but so much if Biden doesn't, allow it to happen. So let's see what happens. I guess, time will tell, and we'll be back here in like a year from now talking about how good or bad like somebody's doing their job or whatever. But like I said,
Exactly.
anything's better than Trump. Anything's better than Trump and his cabinet right now, right? Like his cabinet is controversy. Like he's fired, like he fired Barr supposedly, I heard, and then like or got rid of Barr, and now he fired somebody else right afterwards was there to replace Barr. Like they're losing their mind, man. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
that's an interesting story. If you know a little bit more about that, that is, I didn't get the chance to research that one, but I knew that he just like fired the AG that's supposed to come in right after him,
Yep,
and
yep,
for no reason. Come on, it's a month.
yep.
Like at this point, give it up.
Yep, he's flipping on anybody that said anything against his whole election fraud thing, the debacle or whatever he's starting or whatever. And if you're against him, he hates you. It's pretty funny. It's entertaining to watch. I just hope he gets out of office soon, man. I hope it doesn't, go into January and have other problems in January, because I'm done with it already. I want Biden in already and this to be behind us as much as possible. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I mean,
Um,
this is the long road because the last one that was up this week at least was Tom Vilsack for his former agriculture secretary job for the USDA. So as an agricultural secretary, you end up doing a lot of the okay, I need to just read this one because this is a long one for Tim Vilsack. He's a complicated figure. According to the people familiar with the discussion, turning to longtime allies over several more diverse candidates who have been jockeying for the role. Other people could have been up for this position, but instead they've decided to go with a much safer choice, a choice that, it's an Obama administration person. So you kind of have an idea of where he's going to be. Uh, Vilsack, when spoken to, commented at the Biden rally that he was nominating Vilsack for the position by pledging to immediately tackle racial issues within the USDA, to continue the important work of rooting out inequities and systemic racism in the system that we govern and programs that we lead. So there are issues with Black farmers, for instance, that were been shut out. There have been issues of just pay to migrant workers, etc. So I believe that after years of his issues in the past, they're trying to focus on that and trying to focus that he can be a better person. There was great commentary that farmers find themselves in the situation in large part due to failures of processors to adapt to the changing consumer habits that the coronavirus pandemic created. The USDA's response was to launch Farmers to Families Food Box program.
I
So,
don't know
yeah.
what just happened. Sorry.
So I'm going to just repeat that real quick. No, it's
Yeah,
all right.
please.
I'm just going to repeat. So farmers find themselves in the situation in large parts due to the failure of processors to adapt to the changing consumer habits to the coronavirus predicted. So the USDA's response was to launch Farmers to Families Food Box. So basically, they're saying that this is just a band-aid over the situation until we have a way to go back into the fields. But it's a middle plan. I don't know. Like this is not going to help us over the next 4 years. It's only going to help us through this next year.
Yeah.
So it's a decent candidate. It's at least somebody that we kind of know. It's a devil that we know.
Yeah, it's typical, right? Like he's just basically bringing back all the Obama type politicians. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, though. At least they're competent, right? At the end of the day, like I'd rather have somebody competent, maybe not with the best intentions, but at least they're competent at what they do. I think with Trump, there was a lot of people that he just pulled out for his shenanigans. Like brought in so that he could manipulate the system, and that they'll just basically listen to what he has to say. I mean, I guess this would happen also with Biden. These people would listen to Biden as well, but at least their input would actually make sense. You know what I mean? Hopefully benefit us better than the Obama stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like this is all new to me. Some of these people that I'm hearing about. Um, but I don't know.
Like
What do you think?
Fudge and all of that. I just honestly I believe that he's going with a middle of the ground, but good. I mean, he has not invested in old white people. He's basically invested in a lot of the neoliberal and liberal women and people, minority candidates, which is kind of a good thing. I'm just gonna take that as a positive as is, because at least it's not only bankers. And that was my major concern, is that, well, we'll see with Rahm Emanuel. If Rahm Emanuel gets picked, then I'm gonna have an issue. um that's when I really will chop the bar, which I believe will be next Tuesday. They seem to be dropping it every Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Rahm either. I don't understand. Like, you would think that you would want as little controversy as possible to make everybody happy. He's not going to be able to do much if we don't get the Senate. So he's got to do whatever else he can, as perfect as he can. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's going to be a tough road for Biden, I think, regarding all that stuff. But what are we going to do, right? A lot of this is wait and see what happens, right? Like, we're transitioning out of what Trump was like, which was like an everyday, chaotic, like, mess every day. Something new. You look at the news. Oh, he said this, did that, or he fired this person, or whatever. At least now there'll be some stability, and then we can actually focus on some of the stuff. There's a lot of things now. Infighting within the Republican Party, and there's some controversies now with the progressive and the Democratic Party. The progressive side and the more center, moderate,
just center left, I guess.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting the next couple of months coming up. A lot of stories to talk about, I think. But we'll see what happens, man. Hopefully it's just not too much of the same old with the policing and everything else. I hope that they actually start making changes that are going to be beneficial to the public. There's some talks about the stimulus and stuff that's coming up. So I'm hoping that'll change. They said Bernie's got, some people talking about, putting some money into the stimulus. But that's all talk. Talk is cheap, right? At the end of the day, they've been talking.
What they did is they knocked it down. They knocked it down to $500 for personal. The rest of it is just going to go to business, which is a little bit scary to me. That the next thing they're going to do is just give businesses as much money as possible to keep them alive, while not keeping the people alive. I just know how much that's going to be. If we don't get any more than $500, we're still going to be in the same trouble 1 month from now. It's going to be the same thing 1 month from now.
$500 is a joke. I'm sorry. Like, that's spent in like a couple days. Like, if you have a big family, that's food shopping right there. You know what I mean? Like, within that's like a, maybe a week or two of food. You know what I mean? In some cases, depending upon where you live. If you live in a affordable area, that's one thing. But people they said something, the average household that's been suffering, I don't know if they said average, but I know that they said that they're going to owe up to like $5,000 with mortgage and all that stuff. So that's crazy. Like, what the hell's $500 going to do for that $5,000? You know what I mean? Well, you still need another $4,500, and that's crazy. I don't know. Just I'm hoping that opportunities start reopening now that the vaccine and other stuff happens, and maybe they'll give some like forbearance or whatever, something that they could push things down the line for people so that they could start, paying it off. It'd be nice if some of these banks would loan people money, interest-free loans or something, but if it's not government backed, they have no reason to do it, right? So I don't know. That's it.
Yes.
At the end of the day, like, sorry, go homeless. And then the violence and everything's gonna go up. With people struggling, what do? They said something about the those are called the people are now shoplifting more. I heard stories about people shoplifting for food.
Yeah, there's a higher shoplifting rate for baby food.
Yeah.
Which is very specific. That it makes sense to me, but for other people, it will not make sense that they have gone after items for your kids, stuff like that, things that you can shoplift.
I just hope
product of the scenario. I
hope Biden and his administration take all that into account. You know, like I haven't heard anything about them giving Bernie a significant role yet. I don't know if you've heard anything, but I haven't heard anything. So that's kind of like a smack in the
Oh,
face.
he's better in the Senate. Like they're not gonna. I'm not sure you're gonna get another progressive in the Senate right now. So I think, and honestly, that's like giving your competitor a significant role in your office when they will probably disagree with you often.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as a thing that Biden will do. Biden has no problem with taking in some information from other people, but he doesn't want to be combated the whole time.
Yeah.
And that'll happen with Sanders.
It's like, come on, man, do your thing.
Yeah.
You're letting the people starve. Oh man, it's horrible, man. I wish Bernie won.
So you want to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, but also it's interesting to me when I read a lot of this Twitter and everything else. There are so many contrary views about Sanders and the whole socialist. There is really a rift in the Democratic Party where people are afraid of farther left ideas, even though most of them fall into the bracket of being helped by them. Yep.
It's funny, even like we said, Republicans talking about, oh, we need this, we need that, a lot of socialist like type of things. And I look at it and I'm like, man, the talk is there. And you know that people want this stuff, but you know, nobody wants to pay for it. You know, the Democrats and the Republicans don't want to pay for it, but you know, the progressives know it. And all the people in the public, you know, want it. You can see it by the polls and everything else, it's pretty crazy. You know, it's just crazy, but whatever.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I mean, talking about these cabinet picks was more of like a necessity more than it is interesting. It's like it's that unsexy story. So I just wanted to do that first because it's hard. We're being critical of people that well, some of them you can be critical of because they did the same role before for Obama. They literally are being rehired, but their progress now could be higher, and we got to give them at least a couple months to try to put some plans out and to see what they actually are about.
I'm gonna try to have faith. You know, my mom tells me I should try to have faith, right?
Know that feeling.
Yeah. Yep.